My name is Lars Vore. I'm the CEO of DALI. I've been with the company for over 30 years, and my background is acoustic engineering. So I got the question to explain the SMC technology briefly. I wouldn't say that's easy, but I'll give it a go. SMC stands for Soft Magnetic Composite. It's basically a powder to begin with. The purpose of SMC in our designs is to replace the iron in critical areas where we see mainly eddy current distortion occurring due to the properties of iron, of solid iron, which is probably the most used material aside from the magnet itself in loudspeaker drivers. SMC is basically iron that is pulverized into very, very small particles, after which it is coated with another substrate, and after which it's actually put together again in the form that we wish. You can actually mold your magnet or your conductive parts, the magnet conductive parts, like if it was a metal mold. It's put in a tool. It's heated up to a very high temperature, and then under pressure, you form these replacements for iron in the driver. I have the powder here, and it's basically, it's magnetic. But the whole point with SMC is that once we get it back to the shape we like, we have an object that's not electrically conductive. That means any inductive behavior from the voice coil that wants to induce currents into the iron on a traditional driver will no longer be able to make such induction. And by that we also eliminate the eddy current. And by that we reduce distortion in the driver, particularly the odd order harmonics, and particularly at higher frequencies. Now the SMC, the three letters may say that it's like, an ingredient that could be like a silver bullet in the design. I wouldn't go that far. I would say SMC is a part of the solution to a problem, which we have to combine with other, let's say, design changes in order to make sure that we get only the advantages we want. And I would say that's actually general for audio and acoustic when you want to make good products. Be careful not to believe that one property being taken to an extreme in your chase for improvements. Be careful that you don't sacrifice other things that you actually liked about your design to begin with. And it's the same with SMC. If you just throw it into a driver, you don't get an improvement until you start working with balancing out all the consequences of it. So another question I get quite frequently these days is why did we bring the Core to market? And that's a very good question. And, I can answer in several ways, but I would say, first of all, we were actually encouraged to do so for so many years that many of our customers and fans started believing that it would never happen. But we were encouraged to actually come out with something that would be, a flagship speaker, but also something over our current Epicon series, where we would have a chance to sort of state how we think a speaker design should be done when all our design principles are implemented to the highest extent. That was the outside impulse. Of course, from the inside, I would say also in a more simple way, we made it because we now can. We've dealt with loudspeaker design for almost 40 years. We've built a factory that is becoming more and more, qualified to make things better and more exclusive. And we needed something to actually set a mark for how far we would be able to go in terms of machinery, technology, finish, and processes in general. So if you practice to jump high, you also improve the entire company by doing so. So it has been part of a process where it also was about developing DALI to a new level. So, in fact, several good reasons, I think. So another question is, why this sort of flagship? And that's a very good question, because when you set out to do something extraordinary, you can basically, if you simplify it, you can pick two paths. One would be to go out, I would say if it was a car company we ran, you could go out and build a Formula One racer that maybe only one guy in the world had the money to own. It could maybe only be driven by one or two very skilled drivers. If it had to show its full potential, it would probably require special fuel and extra flat asphalt. That would be a statement for sure. We picked the other path, which would be to say, how far can we take the outcome and the effects of our existing design principles, perhaps with the addition of one or two new that would carry on afterwards. You could put it differently. The core is for us a statement that would in all aspects underline what we have already done and how we have done things. And by that, it is also by nature a real Dali product that anyone who knows us in advance will be able to recognize. Not as a statement that sort of took us to Mars, but more like something that shifted the entire reference frame for what we have done and what we do in the future. So I think that it's important to say that this integrity in the product's background is for us making it even more of a statement, along with actually being a product that you can use for, I would say, human daily use. If this was a car, and it might be a very expensive one, you could still take it for commuting to your daily work. You didn't have to have a special race track prepared for it. It's very important for us because the purpose of making a loudspeaker is to reproduce sound and music even better than before. Nothing else. And that would be music that you already listened to in advance. Actually, I would recommend anyone who get close to a core to actually browse through the existing collection to see how that can be presented in a even more revealing manner.